to another exciting video. This time what we're going to talk about are states that are in the United States, and we're going to process information concerning the states, the 50 states. And before you can start writing a program, what we need to do is grab some information and see how that information is structured. So here I have a data file that I believe I copied from the net somewhere, and it's a text file, and this text file has the name of the state, it has the capital, and then there's 3 numbers that follow. And this is the area, how many square miles the state is, the year at which it entered the Union, and whether it was the 9th state, the 6th state, I believe Delaware was the first state of the Union, the order in which they entered the Union. And so every state basically has 3 lines associated with them. Do not think that they're in any particular order. Okay, so to read in this information, I need to read 3 lines and make sure that I read these lines in a certain order. So now that we know what the data file looks like, what we need to do is read that data in to the program, and then sort of store that data in memory, so that we're going to basically look up what the capital of New Hampshire is, or what the number of square miles in New Hampshire is, that kind of stuff. We have some basic lookups. So I'm going to show you this program right here. This is the first version. Right now, we're not using any type of objects per se. What we're doing is using data structures that we already know about, and basically that's the array. And if you take a look at this information, okay, what we have are a bunch of arrays that we're going to read this information into. So here we have an array of names, state capitals, state areas, state years, and the orders right there. And we allocate that space for those arrays right there. And then what we're going to do is ask for a file name. We're going to type in the file name, and we're going to have a method that says grab the data from that file name. And so we don't know how to do that yet. Well, we do. We've seen that kind of technique of how to read in a file. But at this point, what I'm doing is a top-down approach. Okay, I have a method. It's certainly a void method. And I pass it the file name that I'm going to open. And then I pass it all the arrays. Now, the thing about arrays is when you pass an array, you're passing a reference to the array. And so if I store something inside this array, okay, if I go with my grab data from file, and in that method I store information into this array, the main program will see it. And I can just output that data. I can then pass those arrays to different search methods, and we'll take it from there. So here's grab data from file. Certainly it's a void method. Every method that we've created has to be static right now. We'll talk about the non-static a little bit later. We'll make it private because the world doesn't need to see this method. But here, this is the file name right there. This is the reference to the state names. I got basically 5 arrays that I'm passing. And then I had to include a throws clause. Right now, just let Eclipse add that into the signature of the method so that it can compile. It has to do with error checking and try-catch blocks, error handling. But right now it's beyond what we're going to talk about. So just let the Eclipse add that throws clause so that the thing can compile. At this point, what we're going to do is say, hey, we're processing that's input data file. We create a scanner. Okay, this string gets converted to a file. That file then the scanner reads that file, and then the rest of it is just reading from the file, where I read the name, right there, the state name, SN. I read the capital, and then what I do is I read the area as a double, a year in an order, and then what you're going to do is clear out that third line. Make sure you clear out that third line, otherwise it's not going to work too well. Put that data inside the array. Keep doing that for 50 states, and done. We're finished. All right. So that data that gets assigned to these arrays is going to be seen by the main program, so that we can print out. We're not going to talk. We know how to print out an array. That's no big whoop. But now what we're going to do is say, well, search by state order. Nah, let's not even do that yet. Let's search by state name. Let me comment that out. We're going to search by state name, where I'm going to pass it in the names and the capitals array. And so if I go to search by state name, okay, enter a state name to get its capital. Okay, will do. All right, and we're going to stay in that method while true until we type exit. So remember, okay, enter a state, exit to quit. Okay. Now remember, don't do name equals exit. It doesn't work, okay, because that compares the pointers to the strings, and the pointers to the strings aren't going to be the same as the contents to the strings. So if it's equal to exit, this expression returns true. Break out of the loop, you're done. Now what we're going to do next is say, okay, we're going to have a search routine. I'm going to show you the search routine in a second. I can tell you that search routine is not defined in this class. It's not defined here. It's nowhere near. It's defined in a class called library that's in the same package as this code here. So we'll take a look at it. We're going to take a look at it in a second. But basically, I'm going to search this array of states for this particular name, and it returns a number. If that number is equal to -1, then there's no such state. If it's not equal to -1, like say, pretend it returns the number 5, then all the information that has to do with the fifth capital or the fifth state is going to be associated with the fifth element of these arrays. By the way, come up here. The technique I'm using to store this information is called parallel arrays. Okay, it's the fifth element of the state gets associated, but the fifth capital gets put there. The fifth area is put there. The fifth year, the fifth order. The fifth element of each array are logically related to one another. The 10th element of each array are logically related to one another. That's called parallel arrays. And there's a much better way of handling this, and that's by the use of objects. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. But so get back to here. If this is the number 5, okay. I found Massachusetts, say, in the fifth element of the state names. So what I'm going to do is take that number 5 and say, reference the fifth element of the capitals, and simply say, whatever, Boston is the capital of, I don't believe it's spelled right, by the way, capital. How would I look at it? Capital, yeah, that looks better. No, it's spelled right. I'm losing my mind. Okay, it's right. And so let's see if this works. Okay, what's the data file name? Geez, I forgot what the data file name. By the way, the data file name when you deal with this is called StateData.txt. Make sure it's in the project. Make sure you put it in the project here. Okay, so I'm going to type in state data. Where did it go? Let's run it again. StateData.txt. And not found. Why is it not found? Okay, the problem was I didn't type in StateData.txt. Okay, let's try that again. StateData, StateData.txt, enter, and it read in the data. Okay, I just outputted the state name and the capital, and I didn't bother outputting all that other information there. But okay, that sounds good. That looks good. Now enter a state name to get its capital. Okay, what do we know? Massachusetts. Boston's the capital of Massachusetts. Yay. New York. And it's Albany. Perfect. It looks like it's working. Now let's see if the exit works. Make sure you type in exit, capital exit, and we're done with this program here. Now, let's see. The library. I think we've been over that in the arrays. The arrays section. Basically, you need to understand something about searching, and here's the method I'm calling, the search method that's found inside the library. Notice the library is in the same package as all the other files that we have in here. And so this is the guy that we're going to call, because here we pass it the array, the array of strings. We pass it the key that we're looking for, which is the state name. And this is called a linear search, because what we're doing is we're saying, hey, the process arrays, you usually, 95% of the time, you have a for loop. You start it with the 0th index, go up to the last one, never the equals. Remember, I never equals the length of the array. It's always one less, I plus plus. And if this is true, now we never do double equals with the strings. I can't emphasize that enough. You have to use a method. And I'm going to do equals ignore case, because I don't want to have to be burdened by putting lowercase n or uppercase n for New York. Okay, ignore case. If this returns true, right there, if key is equal to the ith element of the array, return the index I. Now, if I typed in some gibberish, x, y, z, z, y, that's not a state, then it's going to go through all 50 chunks of data that's inside that array. It's not going to find the gibberish state. We're going to return -1. Now I have two search methods here. Another search method deals with an array of integers. Now an array of integers, if I'm looking for a particular integer, the key can be compared nicely with the double equals, because integers are simple data types, and they can be compared with double equals. Okay, but the format's pretty much the same. Okay, we still have a for loop. Inside that for loop, if we find the key that we're looking for inside the array, return its index, otherwise -1. And the reason why it's -1 is that -1 can't be a valid index for any array element. So -1 is universally the number that gets returned for something that's not found. Okay, so let's go back to the program quickly and say, well, geez Louise, let's see. Let's go back to this guy. Go back to here and say, now we talk about search by state order, and this time we pass it the states, because you always gotta have to pass the name of the states, and then the particular information that you want to search by is the other state array, state order. Now, state order is just a bunch of numbers from 1 to 50. Okay, and now this guy here is pretty much the same technique as what we talked about, only this time, yeah, it looks pretty much the same. Look, pretty much the same, but this time I ask for a number, an integer. Okay, make sure I consume that line. And see, I don't have to consume the line down here, because next line automatically consumes it. An integer stays on the same line, so you have to clear the line. But if I type in 0, break out of the loop. Otherwise, what we're going to do is this pretty much the same technique as down here. Search for the 34th state. I don't know what the 34th state is. Okay, but you could use this little database program to find out. If it returns an index of, say, 3, because the 34th state happens to be in index 3 of my arrays, I print out the state name. Otherwise, I say no state matches the particular state number I typed in. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now, I think there's a second version, and the second version looks like the first version. Yeah, the second version looks like the first version, but this time it's exactly the same. But this time, where I get the data is not from a file in my project, but from a URL. Okay, and interestingly enough, all these methods are pretty much the same. Okay, but instead of saying new file, this is the only real difference here. Okay, so this file name, okay, what I'm going to be typing in is this. That's what I'm going to be typing in. Process. Okay, so where does it say this? Okay, enter a data file URL. I type in this. Okay, and it's not a file, it's a URL, so I say new URL. Okay, so that creates an object that you could use to read a file on the net. Open a stream to that file, and from that stream, the scanner can read the characters, and you use the same exact methods that you use to read a file. It works great. Let's see if that works. Paste. Processing, and something went wrong. Something mismatched. Now let's take a look. I think I know what happened. I may have a bogus character in the file on the website. So I'll take a look at it, but take my word for it. Once I fix that data file, it does work. Oh, wait a second. Wait a second. No, I typed in the wrong thing. This is it. Copy this. Let's run it again. See, I had a different URL. There you go. There you go. It works good. It works very, very well. And the program works the same. All right. So the next video, what I'm going to do is improve on this program a bit. Don't use parallel arrays. I'll show you that in the next video. Bye.